Megan's work follows in the footsteps of the abstract expressionists, in a sense that she paints to leave a piece of her unconscious in every painting. She does this by painting on a large human-like scale and uses gestural mark-making and written word to express her emotions and thoughts. Megan's paintings are an insight into her mind, and she strives to feel comfortably truthful and connected to her work. Her work is about releasing and capturing emotion and the process of making work, which is more important than the viewer understanding Megan. In this episode, we discuss Megan's practice as an abstract expressionist, how painting abstractly can create narrative for the viewer, the technical process of making canvases, colour theory, and how to stay authentic to yourself as an artist. Check out Megan's Instagram page at Megan Wheatley Art for more information. Hello, Megan.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How's your morning been?
Yeah, all good. It's lovely and sunny here, so feeling good today.
That's good.
Sun's out.
So, the first question is, why do you do what you do?
I think it is the only thing that I've really had that I've never really gone off. It's something that's been quite consistent for the last couple of years, and it just makes me really happy. I just love doing it. I feel it's so relaxing, makes me happy, other people enjoy it, and it's something that's really true and authentic to myself, which is what I'm really concerned about at the moment, and I just love it.
It's good that you're doing something that you enjoy and you have passion for.
Yeah. I think that means everything when you're a creative person. It's whether you're in it for the long run, you're passionate, and it's what makes you happy. I think it makes all the difference.
Because I don't know if you've been in that situation or been in that position where you question whether you're doing it because it's your passion or you're just doing it for the sake of it.
To be honest, there's been times in education when I've been having to do something for the course, not really at uni, more at college, but that it kind of makes you think, I don't know if this is being completely truthful to what I want to be doing right now, but I kind of have to do it because this is what's going to get me a good grade in this moment. But I've kind of moved away from that now, and it's kind of, the course I'm on is really great, and you're able to work in a way that suits you and suits your practice, and they don't want you to have something that you do for fun and something that you do for uni. They want it to be your life, that you're dedicated to what you're doing, and this is what you're interested in, and they want it to be really truthful. So yeah, not really anymore, luckily.
So let's kind of go before you started studying at uni. So what's your background? How did you start out as an artist?
I guess it all started with, I went to an all-girls school, and I've always been creative. I've danced since I was 3, all my family all dancers, so we that's something that's surrounded me forever, so we've always been interested in that. And it was kind of I wasn't even sure about doing art for GCSE, and I remember speaking to my teacher and saying, do you think I'm good enough? Do you think it's going to be worth it, basically? And she didn't say yes, but she did say, if you enjoy your art classes and it's something that you don't dread or it's something that you look forward to, just do it and it will, you'll work it out. And then it ended up being my best grade at GCSE, and I realized I was I'm not going to do A-levels. I'm highly dyslexic, I've now found out, so A-levels just weren't going to be good for me. So I went to college and I did art and design for 2 years there, which I loved, and I hadn't done any printmaking before, and that's what I was really concentrating on at the time. And that's why I chose my course now, which is drawing and printmaking, funnily enough, even though I'm mostly doing painting. So yeah, I'm in my 3rd year now, and I've been painting for about 1.5 years. And yeah, that's pretty much all I do now. A bit of drawing, but mostly painting. So that's where I'm at.
I wouldn't have guessed that you studied drawing in print. I just assumed you were doing, I don't know what course there is, but you do a lot of painting. So I was like,
Yeah, it's funny when I tell people that, they're like, really? Because that is why I chose the course, because I was basically only doing printmaking in college, and it just so happened that like once I got to know my tutors and they were quite interested in painting and the way they spoke about it, I just kind of fell into it, because printmaking wasn't really doing what I wanted it to anymore. Like I wanted there to be more freedom, more movement. I wanted it to be more expressive, and I do love printmaking, but it was quite regimented, and yeah, it wasn't really working for me anymore. That's why I've been painting, and I love it.
So I know at the moment, I've been asking people this question quite often, but I know for creative students or just creatives, because of the whole COVID lockdown situation, and especially while you're at university, then the transition from going from being in studio, being inside, using the art space or the spaces that they have within the uni, to now always being at home and doing everything from home, pretty much. How's that transition been for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I was able to go back to like my family home when in the first lockdown, and we managed to like convert the like a little shed in our garden to have like a bit of a outdoor studio space, which was lovely over summer. It was a bit chilly over Christmas. But so I just had a piece of wood up there that I was using as a studio wall substitute, and yeah, it was okay. It wasn't perfect. I really missed the studio atmosphere, and I have been missing it still now, but I've kind of adjusted to working on my own a bit, and I'm still managing to kind of work out ways of getting work done that I still want to do, even though it's kind of slightly limited with space, especially now I'm back in Bristol. Managed to choose the smallest room in the house before we knew what coronavirus was. So yeah, that's been interesting, but luckily I can just use the garden and the living room now. But back to the studio soon.
Yeah, hopefully this year gets better. It seems like it's getting better, so
yeah,
hopefully we can all be back to our normal lives again. So when you're working, how do you work? How do you approach your work in a sense?
So my work's kind of like, I want it to be a sort of snapshot of my mind each day. So I often kind of wait until the right day, and I'll have like the canvas or whatever surface I'm going to use ready to go until I just feel like the right time's come, because they tend to be quite big. So you want it to be a good day when it comes round to it. And then I'll usually choose a color palette, like mix the paints, have them all ready in like big tubs, because I use quite a lot of paint. And then I just put on my music, and I try not to think about it too much. I just go for it. And I just want them to be really truthful. I want them to be about how I'm feeling and just be really expressive and yeah, just like really represent my like core like values and what I'm thinking about and my unconscious thoughts and things like that, basically.
Because when you're working and when you're kind of going off, trying to like interpret your kind of feelings into what you're making, are you doing so? Do you want to make it clear to like the audience that this is kind of the feelings I'm expressing, or these are kind of moods I'm dealing with?
Not really, no. They're not really meant to be read. They're more just for, I do my expressing, I put it on the thing, and then I could kind of walk away from it and not really like think about, like mull over it too much. Like sometimes they're happy thoughts, sometimes they're not, especially at the moment. But I basically just put my energy from that day, I just dump it on the canvas, and then yeah, they're not really meant to be able to understand the work. They're just meant to be interesting to look at. I want people to like have to kind of look at them for a while to try and make their own interpretations of like what they think is going on, but it's not really about that for me. It's quite personal work at the moment. So yeah, I'm not crazy about people being able to understand what I'm thinking.
And what work do you most enjoy doing? Because I know there's different type styles or mediums of painting or like creating work. So
Yeah, I think at the moment I just love working. I'm just like, looking at it right now. Actually, I've made this big canvas. It's 60 by 40 inches, so it's big, and it's about as tall as me. And you can kind of just have fun with it and just throw yourself into it, and you don't need to worry about it too much because you can layer over, and it's just so much fun to do. Just love it. Yeah, working big's the best thing for me, and usually with acrylic paint.
and how has your practice changed over time?
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of what I was saying before with the printmaking, especially at college, it was a bit more like regimented, and you had to kind of say, this is what I'm making work about, this is what I'm going to do, and you kind of had to have like more of a theme, whereas now it's kind of more, it's not like a project now, it's more just like, this is my practice and this is what I'm making work about, this is what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So before, I would make work about like themes like climate change or crime, or I can't even remember what I used to make work about, but I basically would pick a topic and then do a project on it, which is not really how I work anymore. And I love drawing. I did a lot of life drawing, so I love drawing figure. I still do. I need to get back into it, but I do like drawing figure from real life rather than just images. So I think it's more like personal and like raw. So yeah, I was working a lot more like figuratively. And then when I started painting and I wanted to be able to see the movement and the action more in the work, it just became abstract, and now I'm working completely abstractly. So yeah, that's kind of how it's changed, I suppose, over time.
And you were saying before how when you're making work, you base it on how, like, it's very personal at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also said that you don't pick themes and then make work off those themes.
Yeah.
So what, if you could go into detail a little bit, what kind of like personal things at the moment are you basing your work on?
It's kind of basically a lot of what I'm thinking about now is kind of I actually wrote my essay on it this year. It's basically about Freud's unconscious thoughts. So basically it's the idea that you have these drives that influence your behavior, and like you're not really aware of it, and it's kind of like underlying influences, and it's like all connected in your brain, and it's connected to like how you act, how you feel, your emotions. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm making work about. I'm just kind of like doing it and trying to have like a clear mind and just like make work, kind of. And then sometimes it's more obvious. There's something that's like really on my mind, and I'm making work about that. And sometimes I'll make like little sketches. I've put a few things on my Instagram recently called like diaries, and it's basically, instead of like writing a diary, I'm just like scribbling, but I'm kind of like, I'm thinking of words while I'm doing it, but I'm just not writing it, because to me it just takes too long, and there's like emotion behind it, so I don't want to have to think about, especially with me, while I'm writing, I actually find it quite difficult to like think about how to spell every word. So I find writing like quite tedious. Not every word, but there are quite a lot of words that I struggle to spell. So just like scribbling and like going through my notebook with marks instead of words, it's more of a release. So and then my paintings are kind of just like a bigger version of that I've also included like how I feel about each color and like what colors mean to me, and the kind of like connotations that colors can have with certain people. There's like, if you look up like, for example, red, and look up like the connotations with red, you'll probably see like danger, maybe love, or like, do you know what I mean, like heat or something like that. It's like quite obvious connotations with it. But if you think about it, there's lots of colors that have like an emotional connection to yourself, but they're not obvious, they're more personal. For like, so example, if you were to make a color palette, you could name each color with something that it reminds you of. So like I could do a color palette and have a blue in it and be like, oh, my childhood bedroom blue. Or I could do, oh, my I don't know, my prom dress purple, or whatever like that. Do you know what I mean? Like things that mean something to you rather than just something that somebody has like made up about a color that they think that's the connotation. So yeah, I think color has lots of deeper meanings, and that's why I love using it.
What I was going to say, because I'm also dyslexic, I understand that the writing element of studying a creative course is like a pain.
Yeah.
And it's stressful, and you try to avoid it at all costs because you work better visually.
Yeah.
How would you say that? I don't know. The way I see it is that, for me anyway, I'm not using it as an excuse, like, you know, because I'm dyslexic it helps me or whatever, but I feel like it does.
Yeah, I mean, I never even really realized I was dyslexic, and then when I got to uni, I was like, well, I'm kind of struggling, maybe I'll just go and check it out and see if I can get any help, maybe I'm dyslexic. And it turned out I was. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a big deal or not, because I've kind of already done most of my academic education. I'm on a creative course now. I'm gonna have to write like 5 essays maximum, so it's not really a big deal. And then when I went into my class, I heard my tutor saying that the majority of my tutors were dyslexic and the majority of my course mates were dyslexic or struggled with writing. And it's just like, oh, I think it makes you more creative because you have to kind of figure out different ways of like getting around your problems. So I think it does help you. It makes that part of your brain work harder, and I think it makes you a more creative person, definitely.
And it's also good to know that that kind of like situation where your tutors told you that other people were dyslexic that you were working with kind of reassured you.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's loads of like negative stigma surrounding like disability or like dyslexia or whatever. But I guess it's just how you use it. And
yeah, I think because I kept thinking that I wasn't dyslexic until I got to uni. I still, when I talk about it, I kind of feel like I'm lying almost. Like I kind of think like, oh no, like maybe you're just being lazy. Like maybe you're not actually dyslexic. Maybe it's just that like you didn't work hard enough, basically. Yeah. And then I just like, it's just pointless. Like they've told me I'm dyslexic, so just take that, do what you can with it, and make the most of the creative side of your brain, because that's been helped by it probably.
So what role does the artist have in society? So as an artist yourself, what role do you think you play in society?
An artist can kind of have whatever role they really want. I think they can kind of do whatever they want. They can get like a normal office job and do something on the side. They can completely dedicate their life to it. And there's like so many different jobs that you can go into that, yeah, it's kind of, it's very open. But if we're talking about like political and like social art, and whether I think that can have an impact on society, I think it definitely can. I think it's amazing. Like an obvious example is like Banksy, and he gets people talking, he brings up big issues and like brings them back to our attention. It's just, but with my own practice, I've tried to, like, as I was saying earlier with climate change, it was something that really bothered me. It was like keeping me up at night. So I was like, I'll make work about it, because my tutors always said, if there's something that's bothering you or something that you're interested in, make work about it, and then you can kind of like set it aside and like move away from it. If you're having a bad day, make your painting, then you can kind of forget about it. Like that bad energy has been placed on an object that like you can just put away and not think about anymore. So So I did that for a while. I was making work about climate change because it was what I was thinking about majority of the time. And then I kind of, I mean, it still bothers me, but I think if you just mull over something for so long, you kind of just, it just like gets boring almost. Like you can't spend your whole life, like I've done everything I can. I'm doing everything I can to kind of be the best kind of sustainable person I can, really. So then it kind of just, it started to not feel natural, and I was almost like kind of doing it for the sake of it. Like it didn't feel authentic anymore. So that's when I started just making work about how I felt each day, because then I could be like completely truthful rather than being like, oh, I'm angry about this thing, but I'm going to pretend that it's about climate change because that's what I've been making work about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I feel about that at the moment.
And how do you show yourself kindness during your creative process?
So kindness.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty good to my. I'm not. I think you're always your harshest critic, but then again, I'm kind of not, because I've kind of been taught that making something bad or like failing at what you're doing is a good thing, for obviously not forever, but if you're experimenting and you realize that something isn't working or something goes horribly wrong, it's kind of a good thing, because like you would have never have known before, and then you can kind of go back and think, oh well, what was good about that other piece of work? How can I continue that in a way that's still like experimenting and being just like keep pushing myself forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I am harsh on myself, but I'm not too harsh. I think I'm fine at the moment.
And when do you feel you're freest?
I think I'm really loving yoga at the moment. I think that's like such a good way to just clear your mind, especially like before you do work, before I paint or something. It's just a good way to like collect yourself, and you're able to like think clearly about how you feel. Yeah, I love that. I love a little bit of meditation at the end of yoga, then put some music on, get painting. I also love being outside and just like being with nature, especially now the sun's out.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it. I think it just makes me a different person, really. So yeah.
Assuming you've picked up some of these like hobbies during lockdown. This is quite,
Yep.
so it's quite new.
Yeah. Well, I think I always loved dance, as I said earlier. Like I used to dance like almost every night of the week, and then I came to uni. I did it for a year, but it wasn't really fitting into my timetable. So I kind of had a year of just like going to the gym and trying to do things like that. But I think it just, nothing compares to like moving your body in like a way that's like really like natural and like fluid, and it's quite similar to dance, but it was also a bit more like meditative and something that I could do on my own every day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now, like I'd love to do it in person in a class. I'd love to go to dance classes, but it's obviously just not possible at the moment. But in the future, definitely will be carrying that on.
So what do your paintings reveal about your personality?
To be honest, to me, like when I look at them, I think they reveal like everything about myself. Like it's almost, sometimes I'll make work and I think, God, that makes me look kind of crazy. Like I'm almost embarrassed for someone to see that, because I've put like my most like raw emotions into it, and I'm like speaking out things that I probably haven't voiced to many people, if not anyone. And then I'm seeing people like look at it and think, oh, that's lovely, like that's so beautiful, and I'm like, oh God. And like they'll never know what it's about, but it feels like they should know, but they don't, because it's completely abstract. So I think like my mum will sometimes say, if she looks at a painting, she normally doesn't say about the dark ones, but sometimes if I've done a couple like quite dark ones and then I do like a brighter one that's like a bit more like energetic, she'll be like, oh, that one looks a bit more happy, like I'm glad you feel better, or something like that. So yeah, I think people often see some imagery in my work, but it's always accidental, but sometimes people like pick up on little things that they see and they're like, oh, that looks like this and this. So it's nice that people can kind of make up their own story around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you'd be able to kind of exactly tell what I was painting about if you just looked at my work. You'd be very good if you did.
And I think that's the cool and amazing thing about abstract, or just abstract work. It's open for interpretation. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
As an abstract artist, you don't want the audience to guess directly. You don't just want to hand it to them what you're doing or what you're feeling or what you're trying to interpret. You want them to kind of come up with their own interpretation. And then it's interesting when you find out, or they message you, or whatever, you have conversations with people and they see something completely different to what you saw. It opens the doors a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I know this is like a bold statement for me to say, but I think abstract is like the superior of, what's it called, mediums. There we go. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, I do love it. I think over the last couple of years I've kind of like, I do have an appreciation for like figurative work, but it's just like I've thought about it, and there's this famous artist called Philippe Gaston, and he was an abstract expressionist, and about halfway through his career he just stopped painting abstract and just started painting like imagery, like figurative work, and everyone was like, oh god, like he's abandoned us, basically, like made a big deal about it. And I thought it was kind of cool. I think it's kind of interesting, like maybe one day I'll randomly switch like that. We'll see. I think it's good to like keep changing and keep like not get stuck in a habit.
Yeah,
definitely. So we'll see, maybe one day. Give it a go.
Well, okay, so one of the interesting questions I wanted to ask you was, how do you know when a painting's done? How like, because because I study photography, it's quite, you take the picture and then you look at it and I like it, kind of thing. But obviously when you're painting, and some artists are like following something, or some artists are like copying something or whatever.
Yeah.
How like, I don't know, like sometimes there's like patches missing, or you haven't paid like sections, and you're like, basically, does the canvas need to be completely full, or like that kind of question?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've kind of gone back and forth on this. I kind of have to sit with the work for a while, or I'll do it and then I'll hide it away for a couple of days and then come back to it, because I think once I've just done a piece of work, I never really think like, oh, that was really good. I kind of had to come back to it to appreciate it, because I think I kind of have like muscle memory of like doing all the marks, so they don't seem that interesting. But then when you come back to it and you look again, you think, oh, that's actually cool, like noticing different elements. I often say like, oh, once I've like finished something, I'm like, oh, it's not done yet. Like I've still got a bit to go. I need to keep working on top of it. And but I don't often actually go back and finish it, because when I come back to it, I actually like it so much that I don't feel like it needs to be worked again. But there's also a kind of element of, because that painting is from that day and I was feeling a certain kind of way, I almost don't want to like contaminate it with another day's feelings. So there's that element as well. And yeah.
So you're saying you want to stay kind of the same, like you would find it difficult to, like, say you painted it today and then you finished it like tomorrow. You wouldn't be feeling exactly the same how you were feeling on the day you painted it, kind of thing. You
Yeah.
want that kind of same kind of like general feeling, or
Yeah. I think sometimes, especially if it's a big painting, I have gone back to it. I have gone back to paintings before and continued them, and it depends. Like sometimes I want it to be like quite minimal and just be able to have like, it's called like one touch painting. So you put down a mark and then you don't go over it at all. So you have to be quite lucky to like it, because you've just put down the mark and then you have to be confident with it, because that's it. Like you can't go over the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also done quite a bit of painting where it's like layers on layers on layers. And I don't really prefer one more than the other. It's just kind of, it just depends on the day really, and what work I've been looking at, like what artists I've been feeling inspired by, because they all work differently even though they've got the same kind of like values. So yeah.
This month, you uploaded a video on Instagram about stretching and priming a canvas at home. I saw this video and I was quite, quite a lot of questions came from that. So I'm just wondering, like, could you explain for those who don't know, the like creative process of creating a canvas, and like kind of why you decided to do that?
So the main reason I've been putting off, to be honest, I've been putting off making my own canvases for ages, because it's a bit of a faff, to be honest, because you have to kind of buy like quite a few like tools and things, especially like when I'm able to just paint like straight onto a wall. It doesn't really seem necessary to make the stretcher frame, but now I'm working from home, I can't put it straight on the wall because I'll get paint on the wall and I'll lose my deposit. So I decided, I was like, right, I need to bite the bullet and just make it. And luckily I found this company that I was able to buy the like external frames like separately, different sizes. So you just hammer them together and then you nail on braces, which go so normally in like a kind of window shape, like in between the frame, the wooden frame, which just hold it together, like make it sturdy. And they also prevent it from the wood from warping when the paint dries, because the canvas tightens around it. So it has to be quite strong. And then you staple because the canvas comes soft. It's just like it's a thick material, but it comes soft and you just staple it on, and it's often like kind of creased or whatever. So I prime it with emulsion paint, and then it tightens all up and it's a nice smooth surface to work on. And it is really satisfying to make it.
And so why don't you just buy a canvas from, for example, you can buy canvases from the art shop at uni. Why did you choose to make them instead?
Well, for the big ones, it would be probably, to be honest, I haven't even seen them in any shops that big, but I reckon it'd be about £300 to buy one made. And yeah, so it's a lot cheaper for the big ones, and also it's nice and sturdy. It's nice to know that you've made it, and it becomes like more of like an object to like hold. It's kind of nice to know like you've made the whole thing, rather than just buying in a surface and then like pouring your heart and soul onto it, knowing that it's just kind of like it's just a bought thing.
And do you think making it yourself adds like anything to your work when you've actually like finished a painting on a canvas that you've made?
Yeah, I don't, to be honest, I thought it would have more of an impact. I do feel kind of more, I suppose, a bit more connected to it. Like, it is nice. I think mostly because it is just like a nice canvas to have it on. But to be honest, it hasn't added loads. It was a bit of a ball ache to make, to be honest. It took me about a week to put together, and one of the braces didn't come in the right size, so I had to go to just like a B&Q and buy a piece of wood and like saw down like the edges and like make the little indents and stuff. But yeah, it is good. I'll just I think what I'll do with that I'm working on for uni is I'll just, once the painting's done, I can take off the canvas and put another piece of canvas on and do another painting, because I just don't have space to keep any more canvases in my room. It's absolutely full.
Oh, that actually makes so when that makes more sense to me now. So when you take off because the canvas is the material, it's not the whole thing.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah,
can,
it's confusing because the actual thing is called a canvas, but it is the material, and it's just on a stretcher frame.
yeah,
But people do call it the whole thing a canvas, so it is kind of confusing.
but it would make sense. Kind of the way I'm imagining it is that you would take the canvas off the frame,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually you would put that canvas in like an actual frame, and then that would be seen in like a gallery or something.
Yeah, you could, but normally when you put it in a frame, it is still on the stretcher frame because you can just normally you will see it on a stretcher frame. Sometimes they do like these like box frames. So you have the canvas and then it's inside like a it's really difficult to explain,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like inside like another kind of like open box sort of thing. But it is still on the stretcher frame, but I'm just using it in a way to basically practice on at the
Yeah.
moment. So that's why I'm changing over the material.
I'm learning so much. I just, all these years I thought that the whole thing was just the canvas, and that was it. There's so much more to it. Where or how do you rediscover inspiration when you're feeling creatively dry?
At the moment, I'm reading a book by Harold Rosenberg, and that is bringing me a lot of inspiration. And it's mostly just I will look up the artists that I like. From the majority of them are abstract expressionists, which are artists from it's kind of like post-war in America, in New York, that were painting in a kind of similar way that I'm painting. So I look up like their documentaries, like their quotes, things they've written about their work, and yeah, I just go back to them really. I look at them, and I do sometimes look on Instagram for some current painters that I like, but it's hard to know what they're making work about because it's Instagram's kind of like superficial, I kind of think sometimes, even though I use it a lot because it's good for business and it's nice to have it all in one place. But yeah, I don't like to rely on it too much for inspiration, to be honest.
Do you feel like it's easier or better, maybe the word is, to use, especially when you're looking for like practitioners or you're looking for artist research, we always tend to go for the artist of like back in the day, like before we were born, kind of stuff. Because their work tends, I don't know, I feel like their work tends to be better than modern day artists.
Well, I kind of think it was something that my tutors kind of told me in first year that I needed to get out the habit of, because I was just going on Instagram and looking for things that I thought, oh, that looks cool. I'm going to base my work off of that. And they were like, you know, that their work's based off of this practitioner that you don't even know who they are. So basically, don't look at the person that is inspired by the first person, just go back to the source.
Yeah.
So basically go back to the people that like created this movement. They were revolutionary at the time. So and then that's like, it comes from the most purest place.
Because someone recently said to me that all artists that have been inspired by work and then make work based off that, them being inspired, we're all like unintentionally stealing each other's work. But so in that perspective, it makes sense. But it's not like, everyone gets an idea from someone. I feel like
Yeah,
it's
100%.
difficult to get an idea that comes from nothing. But then sometimes you're lucky, and then you do come up with something.
I truly believe that there is no original, especially in painting at the moment. There's no original idea now, and there doesn't need to be either, because if you look back to these like original practitioners that I'm talking about, they were inspired by the people before them, and it's kind of like a new thing at the moment to think like, oh, I need to come up with my own original idea. And you don't need to have your own original idea. You just need to be authentic to yourself, and that is your originality. So you can, And this is what is interesting about your concept and your ideas and how you speak about your work, is that is truly like what is interesting, rather than like the aesthetics of what you're making, because what you're making can be copied if you try hard enough. Anything that is physical and aesthetic can be copied, but what's like in your brain and like the energy that you put into your work and how you think about your work, that's what's really original and like authentic.
Because I don't know, I'm talking about personal experiences. This whole podcast thing I'm doing, you know, I went into this knowing that there was possibly other podcasts who were doing like a similar thing.
Yeah.
And there was other podcasts with the same name, or there was, you know, there were so many barriers before actually releasing this I had to go through. But I was like, I'm still going to do it because my idea is like completely different to like all theirs. And even though it may be the same name or whatever, mine's going to be better. I don't know. I just thought it like kind of like that, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it, because I would have been like, okay, there's too many other people doing the same thing as me.
But it's always going to be different, because you're never going to have the same two people speaking, and I'm sure they're never going to have the exact same conversations, because they would have never have had the experiences that we've had that make us have these thoughts. So in a way, everything is unoriginal, but also everything is if you want it to be, everything can be authentic to yourself, because nobody's had your experiences and nobody thinks the way you think because they haven't lived your life. That's pretty deep.
That's good, yeah. You know, you've answered quite a few questions just in that section. I'm gonna skip ahead. So because you were talking a bit about Instagram and like the kind of the way you kind of view it and stuff. Do you struggle with comparison with other artists? And like, if so, like, how do you move past that?
To be honest, not really. Especially, I've never really thought on Instagram like, oh, I feel kind of down because their work's good and my work's not as good as them. I kind of see my work as like a work in progress, and I'm not fully happy with it at the moment, because I think I'm only 20 and I've only been doing it for so long that I think if I was happy with it, and I think if I thought it was perfect, then it would be pointless carrying on because you're not going to grow anywhere if you think your work is perfect. So at this point in time, all I want to be is challenged, and I want to grow and I want to learn from other people. So even if someone's making work that's similar to mine aesthetically, as we were just saying, it is different. Like there is no comparison because I haven't made it. In a way, not saying that my work's necessarily better than theirs, because I know as I said, my work's not perfect and it's a work in progress and I'm still learning. But my work will never be the same as somebody else's, because as we said, like they've never had my life experiences. So that there isn't really much comparison for me apart from the aesthetics, which, as I said, it's obviously important, but it's not make or break for me.
Yeah, you know, you're individual to yourself, and that's what stands you out from everyone else, because in a way, no one is doing what you're doing. In a sense.
I think it's the same for everyone. Like if you get into this mindset, then you'll grow from seeing other people's work. Like I love being around other creatives. Like I live in a house full of creatives, and it's amazing atmosphere because we all push each other to do better, because we're all excelling in our different practices. So I just think there's no need to struggle with comparison when you can thrive off of it.
You know, you've mentioned music quite a lot, and I always ask people this because I think music is so good. What kind of music do you listen to when you're painting, and kind of like what, if you could like think of some names, or like what genres are you into, kind of stuff?
Yeah, I preempted this question, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go on my Spotify and I'll find a couple of names. But I think if I'm being honest, like with my painting, I kind of like to listen to artists that I don't know, because otherwise I will end up making work about it will kind of like interfere with what I'm making work about if I know the song, because I'll kind of get a bit stuck in that. So
Yeah.
what I quite like to do is just maybe find a song that I'm liking at the moment and then just letting it like run through with the like the radio on Spotify or something like that.
Yeah.
So it gives me, like, kind of surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm like. And I have like a very varied music taste. I like pretty much all music in at the moment. So yeah.
Well, that's good, because now that I know that you're open to listen to music that you, or like artists that you've never heard, I'm just gonna send you music, because I do that so much with people. Like if I'm not messaging them directly, I'm just sending them music.
Yeah, I look forward to it. That'll be good.
We're going to talk a bit more about commissioning, and for
Mm-hmm.
those who don't know about commissioning, or what it is, or what happens within it, explain the commissioning process. How do you go amongst getting commissioned? Why is it important to get commissioned?
So I think at the moment I'm kind of using it as like my like part-time job basically. So I'm promoting it on my Instagram quite a bit, and luckily my friends are being really supportive and like helping me promote it as well, and I've managed to, it's actually kind of been blossoming like quite recently, so I'm really grateful for that. And the kind of process of it is that they'll just message me saying that they're interested. I'll give them a quote of a price sort of thing, and then we'll work out a color scheme together. They'll tell me the sort of size. I haven't actually made many canvases for a commission, but I've got one recently that I've just made, so I'm looking forward to that. So it's made like to their exact size, and it's all primed, ready to go. So they usually send me some of my work that they like, and then we'll kind of speak about what kind of thing they're looking for. And then I really just get stuck in, and luckily everyone so far has been so lovely and has trusted me with it, that I'm kind of able to just like do my thing, and they've been loving it, so it's working. And yeah, it's going really well. So I'm hoping I can keep that up alongside my last couple of months of uni and maybe into next year, and see how it goes.
Because through that it could turn into, like I'm thinking, because I know you don't currently have a website, but doing so, this could turn into like kind of like a business.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it definitely could. I do need to sort out a website. It's just I was kind of putting it off because I didn't want to pay for a domain.
Yeah.
And it was kind of working through Instagram anyway. I'm thinking maybe like an Etsy soon to sell some prints, because I think it might put some people off having to like directly message me, just because it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a bit scary. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they're scared that it's going to be maybe too expensive, like once they message me. So, and then they'll be like, it'll be kind of awkward. So I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe I'll do an Etsy.
And speaking about expenses, so when you're pricing your work for commissions, or if you're pricing your work to sell to others, how do you do that? Like, how do you know how much your work costs, in a sense?
Oh, it's really difficult. I've been working on this for years, because especially in the beginning, when it was just like my friends and my family that were buying artwork, it's really awkward to try and work out how much to price it for, because you don't want to undersell yourself, but also you don't want to make it too expensive when you know it's your family and friends that are trying to support you. So I think now I've kind of worked it out, it's a bit better. I work out my material costs, the postal costs, the packaging, because I've got to package it quite well to post it. And then I kind of just work out how long it's going to take me, and then give myself like a wage basically. And then I've worked it out like that, and I've got like a little spreadsheet now. So it's a bit easier now. I don't have to give like individual quotes. I can kind of refer back to that.
Yeah.
That's how I'm doing it at the moment.
It's good that you've done that. It's good that you've prepared it kind of like come up with a system
Yeah,
that can be easy to follow.
yeah,
So
working better.
because I think it's for like artists who are like, for example, like famous artists, it's kind of like, for them it's easy to like price their work and stuff because they're well known. I found it interesting how I've always been interested how like people that are not famous or upcoming like artists, how's they do it. And
It's difficult as well because you don't want to price it so high that you're not going to get any interest, but you also, it's, the materials are really expensive. Like you can understand why, like when you start breaking it down, you can understand why original artwork is so expensive to buy, because it takes a long time, the materials are expensive, and it's big to ship, and it's just, yeah, it just costs a lot of money to make.
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of preparation and just the whole creative process of like making something, and it takes a long time. There's a lot of elements to it,
Sure.
and especially when you're studying something practical, that is very expensive because you have to buy all this stuff to make the stuff you're making.
Yeah, I think I kind of struggled as well with it because I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if my work is worth it. Like, I don't know if I don't want to sell work that I'm not happy with. And I'm kind of getting to a place now where I'm thinking I feel quite confident with my work. And I also have to kind of remind myself, like, it's not just a little hobby that I'm doing on the side now. Like, this is probably going to be my career. Like, I'm almost finished my degree in it, and I kind of know what I'm talking about now. So I'm starting to feel more confident.
So what what medium, what art style is your favorite?
So I like to work in acrylic at the moment. That's my favorite medium. And then I'd say I don't really know if I have I think people like to say, oh, like you've got a style, but I don't really love calling it a style because it makes it seem a bit more commercial almost. I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but it's kind of just my practice, and rather than like, I don't want to be boxed into this is your style and this is the only work you can make.
Yeah.
So I think like what I'm trying to say is
Nice.
I work abstract and I work in acrylic paint, and that's kind of as much as I want to box myself in at the moment. You know what I mean?
No, I understand, because the most common question I get when I was studying as well, like people just ask me like, what is your style? Like, what do you do, kind of thing. And especially when you're doing more than one stuff, or you love more than one thing, you try not to, like, as you said, like box yourself into that kind of like, I just do abstract, or I just do this, when that's kind of, in a way, it feels like you're lying to yourself, because that's not true.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Sometimes I just say I'm an artist, because that's quite broad, and that's quite,
yeah, I think kind of as well, I kind of just try to show people my work, and I like if I'm going to talk about my work, I want people to be able to see it first, because it just kind of, I don't want to have to say like this is my style. I want them to just see it almost. And I think people are sometimes kind of surprised when they see my work, so it's quite nice. I like showing people my work.
I know you color theory. I don't, I know you kind of like color theory for you is important, and you kind of like, you spoke about it quite a lot in the other questions. But for those who don't know what color theory is, or explain to me what basically color theory is, and kind of why it's important in your work.
Okay, so in a nutshell, color theory is just ways of understanding color and theories of how to use it in your paintings or how to use it in your artwork. So there's lots of different theories. And so like an example of it would be that warm colors advance and cold colors recede. So you can use it in your paintings to, for example, like if you wanted something to stand forward, you could paint it in like oranges or reds. And if you wanted something to kind of stand further away from you, not literally, but like in the painting, you'd use like blues or like cold greys or something like that. So there's lots of different color theories, and they don't all like work together. They're kind of, sometimes they like kind of like don't make sense together. But I think one that I use a lot is it's the idea that colors have a size. So basically, some colors, you only need a small amount of them in your painting to be like overpowering. So for example, like yellow, you only really need a small amount of yellow for it to be overpowering. And so if you're making a painting and it's full of bright luminous colors, it becomes quite easy to read almost, and they all kind of carry like the same weight. Whereas if you had a painting that had lots of different tones and varied colors and varied like color values, it'll become like more interesting. So you could have a kind of like a pop of bright orange in a blue paint, like a blue painting with lots of different tones. And you'd have to spend longer with the painting to kind of understand it, and it just becomes more interesting. So that's why I use it. I think that's the most important thing at the moment in my work.
And do you follow like because I know there's the color, the kind of the color wheel like chart thing. Do you follow that, or do you have like kind of like a system you follow, or something you refer back to?
Yeah, so the color wheel, I'm sure you know, the color wheel is just has like all the primary colors on it, and then the opposite colors on the color wheel are like contrasting colors. So for example, like blue and orange or green and pink are contrasting colors, so they make each other like stand out. So that's how I use the color wheel mostly. But I'm kind of like going back and forth on it at the moment, because I want to kind of use my intuition more. And I don't know if you know much about Zen. Do you know much about Zen?
Like meditation, or
yeah. So basically Zen is like the practice of like not making decisions. So that's kind of like why people associate it with like kind of like being relaxed and like and that sort of thing, because you're not thinking too much, you're kind of just going with the flow and like not making decisions. And a lot of the artists that I look at, they're interested in that as well. So I've been kind of thinking about that and trying to incorporate that into my work. And it kind of, if you're too hung up on color theory, it kind of butts heads a bit, because if you're not making decisions but you're also like completely thinking about color theory, it doesn't really work. So I'm trying to get to a place where I can make work and have like the practical knowledge of color but not have to really think about it much. And I think I'm getting there kind of, but I've still got a bit to go.
That's interesting. I think that's just this is two quite opposite things, and things that something that would clash in the creative process, but
you're
making it work. Have you spoken much about incorporating Zen in your work to like on your Instagram or like to other people?
I've spoken about it with my tutors a bit. I think I'm gonna maybe read some books on it and see where it goes. Yeah, my tutors definitely know that I'm interested in it. I haven't really spoken about it much on my Instagram at the moment. We'll just kind of see where it goes if I get into it much.
You know, this question's kind of quite separate, but I think it's important. So how do you think the internet and art spaces have contributed to the popularity of art and culture in society?
Yeah, interesting. I think one thing that's been on my mind a lot recently is these, I mean, obviously because we can't go into galleries at the moment, these online exhibitions that have been quite popular. I mean, I think they're a great start to like get into work that get into art, but I don't think just nothing compares to like standing in front of, especially painting. I think it's just so personal. Nothing really compares to like standing in front of like a big painting that like is like bigger than you, and like you can see the brush strokes and that you feel like you can kind of imagine how the painter did it. I think it's just so personal, and it can really be like quite overwhelming, and just like seeing that on a screen is just, it's just not the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of separate to the question, I suppose, but I also do think though that going into galleries can be quite intimidating almost, especially like with big exhibitions. It's usually paid entry, which could probably be like kind of off-putting if you're not really like an art lover, and you just like are interested. So I think the internet is definitely good for that. And obviously with my practice, like basically all of the practitioners that I've spoken about, I haven't seen any of their work in person. So without them, my practice would be completely different if I had never seen any of their work. So I guess it's kind of contradictory for me to say it's not the same. But I do also think that I really hope that in-person exhibitions don't slow down, or I don't think they will die out. I think there's, as I said, nothing compares, but yeah, I think they're really important. So
because I think when everything kind of goes back to normal, I think what people have realized during this time is that over time we've started to hate the internet more and more, because it's, you know, how everything's online now. We miss the actual like face-to-face interaction with people and with galleries and with just being in there. Because when you're in the moment, when you're at a gallery or something, and you're like in front of like a huge painting, it feels amazing. Like even if you know the artist or you don't know the artist, regardless, you're in that moment and it feels good. And it's when you're viewing it online through a screen, it kind of takes that away.
100%. I do love Instagram, and it's been amazing for the last year because I would have been really stuck without it. But I do kind of resent having to take photos of my work. Like recently I did it was quite a small commission, but I was trying to take photos of it and I was getting so frustrated because the camera just wasn't taking, like the colors just looked completely different to how they looked in real life. And I wanted to say, like, you have to just trust me. I promise it doesn't look like this, but you can't really do that. So I just had to kind of go with it. And then my work on Instagram as well, like, I think it does look good sometimes, like the photos are all right, but I think, as I said, just nothing compares to seeing it in person. Like, I just wish people could see, not saying my work is like groundbreaking, I just wish people could see it because it changed their lives. I wish that like my work wasn't being marked over a blog basically, and I wish that I could just basically have my work on show. I think that would be great. I can't wait to do that again.
Have you thought about, an idea just came to mind. I don't know when, just when things are better and we're able to like see more people, you could even host like an exhibition at your house or something. Or
I've actually spoken about, because as I said earlier, my house that I'm in right now is full of creative people, and we did say, because I don't think we're going to have a degree show this year, well, not an in-person one as it stands. So we were saying, why don't we just clear out the bottom floor and put up our work and just invite our friends over and see what happens, just have our work out, so it's not just been in our room all year.
I think that's good. I think it's having, because I graduated last year and having had everything pretty much online. Part of it frustrated me, but there's not much we could do. But I feel like that's a good idea to have like kind of an exhibition at your house and that way people are seeing it, and it could turn, it could be like strangers walking into your house or whatever.
Yeah.
You feel much more like appreciative because everyone, as you've said, you love it when you show people your work. You love showing people what you've made and hear what they have to say and stuff. So
yeah, I think we'll definitely do that. Maybe we'll be able to. We could even do it like in a park or something. We'll see how it goes.
We've reached the last question. And it's basically what are your intentions for 2021? What's gonna happen this year that was different from last year for you?
I think I'm just at the moment it's difficult to plan, isn't it? So I'm hoping to do a master's at some point, probably not starting in September. So I'll be moving back to my family home for a bit just to work things out, just keep the commissions going, keep painting, basically just carry on and apply for some competitions, maybe just basically see what I get, see if I can, if there are any opportunities after the pandemic, see if there's anything going still. And yeah, just take some time really to decide like what I really want to do and just not rush it, to be honest.
That's a good thing to do. Don't rush it, because it's easy to rush it and then realize further down the line that actually I don't want to do this thing. I actually want to do this instead, kind of thing. So
I think as well, I'm quite young for my year. That I went straight to uni straight after college, so not many of my friends are still 20, and I actually will have handed in my last piece of work before I've turned 21. So I think I've got time on my hands to just kind of work things out and see what happens.
Well then, thank you for this.
Thank you for having me. That was really fun.
Good. You can check out Megan's Instagram at Megan Wheatley Art. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It's been good.
Thank you.
It's been refreshing. It's nice to talk again to someone.
Yeah, I've never spoken about myself for that long before. That was kind of crazy.